Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Kim and I am a Halloween Horror Nights expert. Okay, expert is a pretty strong word, but I've gone to the event nearly every year since 2004, and I've done a lot of research to ensure that the most accurate and up-to-date information is in this video, so I'm claiming it. Hi, editing me here. The day after I recorded this video, Universal announced that they are putting Death Eaters into Diagon Alley during Halloween Horror Nights this year. And while I don't think that they're going to be like popping out like characters, I think they're going to come out, they're going to do a little show, they're going to act menacing, and then they're going to go back. I did say a lot of times in this video that Diagon Alley is a safe space to hide from characters during the event, so just keep that in mind. I don't think it'll be as intense as the rest of the event, walking through scare zones and stuff, but be mindful of that. Okay, bye. If you've never been here before, hi, welcome to my channel. I used to upload once a month, but now I upload whenever the spirit moves me. And today it moved me to make this video. But why? And how? And who? And what? And where? And why? Well, I imagine if you were recommended this video or if you were just compelled to click it in general, you're probably at least a little bit like me in that you love Halloween and are a bit of an anxious traveler. I know when I am going on vacation somewhere, I want to know absolutely everything that there is to know about the place before I get there. And that's what I want this video to be for you. This is the complete beginner's guide to the event that is Universal Orlando's Halloween Horror Nights. Now, there's an emphasis on Orlando because I have actually never been to any of the other events around the world. But I think like a lot of the more general information can probably be used for those events, but I don't know, never been there. I can only speak to the Orlando event. Quick disclaimer before I begin, I am no way affiliated with Universal, Universal Orlando, Universal Resorts, Universal Studios. No, I am just a lover of the event and an in-depth planner of trips. Everything in this video is of my own opinion. I am not being paid to say any of it. These tips and tricks are based on my current knowledge and the way that the event works today in 2023, and it is subject to change at any point. This is just a video for education and entertainment, y'all. I've broken the video up into helpful chapters, so if you're not a complete beginner or if you're just looking for specific information, you'll be able to easily click through to the correct section. So without any delay, let's get into it. I first want to give a really quick rundown on the event's history, as well as touch on some of the more specific details to this year's event, 2023. Linked below are way more in-depth videos on the topic that is Halloween Horror Nights, the event history, all of that jazz. So if you're interested in learning more about Halloween Horror Nights, I suggest you check those down in the link below. HHN is an event that runs at the Universal Parks in Orlando, Hollywood, Japan, and Singapore. It originated in Orlando in 1991 as Fright Nights, as a way to boost park attendance. It was basically a big block party. It only ran for 3 nights, and it featured one haunted house. Famous Halloween movie characters would roam around and do meet and greets, and there was also a parade. The event was so popular that the next year the event came back under the brand new name Halloween Horror Nights, and it's been growing and evolving ever since. This year, Halloween Horror Nights 32 will see more dates than ever. The event kicks off the first weekend of September and runs all the way through November 4th. There is plenty of time this year to get your scares in. There are 10 houses to look forward to this year, including 4 intellectual property houses, or IP houses, and 6 original content houses, or OC houses. Intellectual property, it just means that the house is based on a movie or a show or a video game, some popular kind of media that everybody has seen or knows and is beloved. An original content house is something that was cooked up behind the scenes by those weird minds at Universal Creative. Those tend to be a little bit less popular than the IP houses, but I wouldn't write them off. Sometimes those can be the best houses of the year. This year, we'll see Stranger Things Season 4, The Last of Us, The Exorcist Believer, and Chucky, as well as Universal Unmasked, Dueling Dragons, Yeti Kills, The Darkest Deal, Blood Moon, and Dr. Oddfellow's Twisted Origins. It seems like Dr. Oddfellow might be the icon of this year's event. An icon is basically just the main character of the year. Universal used to feature these guys heavily in the early 2000s, but they kind of faded out in the 2010s. It seems like they might be bringing them back in more recent years, so I'm pretty excited about that. This year it's Dr. Oddfellow's time, and if you don't know anything about Dr. Oddfellow, he is the quote-unquote originator of Jack the Clown, who is like iconic. Anyway, there's a great video based on the park's icons linked below if you want to learn more about them. Along with those houses, we will see 5 new scare zones throughout the streets, including Dark Zodiac, Vamp 69, which is a returning fan favorite, Shipyard 32, Jungle of Doom, and another Dr. Oddfellow's collection. I am really, really excited about this year's event, and I am sure I'll do an updated video later in the season with my official review of HHN 32. But for now, let's move on to some helpful information for the beginners among us. So let's start at the beginning. Halloween Horror Nights is held at Universal Studios, which is located inside Universal Orlando Resort. To get there, you are going to punch Universal Orlando into your GPS and follow parking signs when you get there. During the event, parking is $30 per vehicle until 12 a.m. when parking is free. Once you've paid, you'll park in one of 2 parking garages and follow the signs for the attractions. They are pretty strict on outside food and beverages during the event, so unless you have dietary restrictions, I'd honestly just leave it at home. There are metal detectors that you'll have to send yourself and your bags through before entering, so be aware of that. They do not allow weapons of any kind, not even toy or prop weapons, so just don't bother. They also don't allow costumes or non-COVID masks to be worn during the event. I will get more into clothing details later in another section. This is a rule board that they place just outside the metal detectors during the event. Read them and understand that by entering the park, you are agreeing to abide by these rules, or you risk getting kicked out, trespassed, or possibly arrested. I don't want to bring the mood down, guys, but these are very, very serious, so please pause to read them and keep them in mind while you're visiting the parks. Once you make it through the metal detectors, you will be heading into the entertainment district that is City Walk. This is not the park, but it is a pretty neat place to hang out prior to heading into the park if you arrive early. There are bars, restaurants, and shops you can check out if you're looking to kill time before the event that opens at 6:30 p.m. Personally, I recommend arriving to Universal no later than 5 p.m. to get in line. That's gonna feel kind of early, but trust me, the lines get really, really long at the front of the park, and you are gonna wanna see the opening ceremonies. The event opens as close to 6:30 as possible, but because the park closes at 5 p.m. for day guests, it can sometimes take a little longer for security to sweep through the park and kick everyone out. They're usually pretty good about opening on time though, so, you know, I wouldn't really worry about it. As you can see on this event calendar, the park is open until 2 a.m. every single night. Now, HHN does not run every single night. Unless Halloween falls on a Monday or Tuesday, the event does not run on those nights. You can expect the first weekend to run Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and then Wednesday and Thursday are added to the event as it goes on. Opening weekend typically starts somewhere near the beginning of September, and the event runs through at least Halloween night and sometimes beyond. If you are watching this video beyond the year 2023, check the links down below for your year appropriate information. The most important thing to know about this event is arguably the prices. I mean, if it's not in your budget, you're obviously not going to go anyway. So as I said before, if you're watching this beyond 2023, the prices might look a little different, but I'm going to break down the current ticket options, which don't really change year from year, and you can check the links below for your year appropriate price. Your first and most basic option is the single night ticket. The price varies based on the night. The busier the night, the more expensive the ticket. Fridays and Saturdays in October tend to be the most expensive. It's closer to Halloween, people are off work and school, so they're more likely and willing to take a late night out. So if you can manage to do a Wednesday, Thursday, or Sunday, it'll not only be a little cheaper, but also a little less busy. Single night tickets start at $79.99 this year, but they fluctuate throughout the season. Check the links below. Moving on, we have season passes. That's if you plan on going more than once or twice. Typically, the locals and annual pass holders are the ones that purchase these, but they are perfect if you plan on taking a long weekend as well. Here are the season pass tiers. First, you have the Rush of Fear Pass, which for $179.99, you can visit every weekend in September. Next, you have the Frequent Fear Pass, which allows you these dates for $229.99. The Frequent Fear Pass Plus lets you go all days except Saturdays, though you are allowed to visit the first and last Saturdays of the event. Personally, this is the pass that I purchase because Saturdays are just too busy for me anyway, and the price for that pass this year is $269.99. And finally, you have the Ultimate Frequent Fear Pass, which allows you to go to all of the dates of the season for $374.99. You can add Express Pass onto any of these passes for an additional fee, but I will discuss the Express Passes later in the video. Okay, so you bought your ticket, you've arrived early, it's 6:30 p.m., the park gates open, the chainsaws are roaring, and you're in the park. Breathe in that fog, baby. But now what? In this section, we're going to talk about the layout of the park. Although the houses and scare zone themes change year to year, there's actually very little difference in terms of where everything is placed, so I do feel confident showing this map and talking briefly about the lay of the land. The first thing you're going to notice is that the event is really spaced out throughout the park. You can expect a lot of walking during the night, so plan accordingly. The distance between houses can vary greatly, but with scare zones placed in between, you can guarantee you're never going long without a good scare. So, when you first enter the park, once you get past the initial chaos of the front gate, you will be faced with a choice: straight ahead or to the right. I cannot tell you which direction to go. That is up to you and your priorities. Consult the park map and choose thy fate. Though, later in the video, I might have a couple tips and tricks. Stay tuned. For the sake of simplicity, let's say you head straight. The first thing you're gonna pass is the first house on the left. You'll know it's a house entrance thanks to these handy dandy signs they place out front. It'll have the name of the house and the wait time posted as well. They keep the wait times fairly accurate, so keep an eye out for those. Just past the first house, and you're entering the very first scare zone. Moving through that scare zone, you'll pass a bunch of specialty food trucks on the right, which we will touch more on later. For now, you're entering the second scare zone. This year, the Vamp 69 scare zone is taking up the New York section of the park. Within this zone, you'll find the entrance to 3 houses tucked away in the Fallon queue and to the left of the Tribute Store. We will discuss the Tribute Store a bit later. Once you leave that scare zone, you are offered a bit of reprieve. You'll find specialty bars and food trucks sprinkled throughout the alleyways of New York and the streets of San Francisco. You'll also find another house entrance just to the left of the Fast and Furious ride. Also note that beside this house entrance is the first aid station, just in case things get a little extra scary throughout the night. Moving through San Fran is another scare zone, and on the other side of that scare zone is the rather quiet area of Diagon Alley. They don't do much in Diagon Alley for the event, but it is open to visit. Nightmare Fuel can be found at the back of the park in the old Fear Factor Stadium. You can grab some food or a beverage and get ready to sit down and enjoy a spectacular show. To the right of the show is another house queue, followed by another 2 houses on the right of Men in Black. On occasion, they'll put out chainsaw wielding clowns in the Springfield area of the park. It's an unofficial scare zone. You won't find it on any app or map, so beware of that. There's also lots of food and drink locations in this area, so it's a good spot to just chill out if that's needed. Moving past the DreamWorks location, there's another scare zone you will pass through, and on the right you'll see Mel's Die-In. It is a staple of Halloween Horror Nights, so make sure you stop and snap a picture of the iconic signage. Finally, you will move through the very last scare zone of the night in the Hollywood section of the park. And with that, you have officially completed Halloween Horror Nights. Congratulations! 10 houses, 5 scare zones, 1 show, 5 rides, and a responsible amount of alcohol. Great job, everyone. Now, of course, there are a million things that I did not mention on this map. Bathroom, bars, rides, guest service locations, etc. So you'll just have to get a copy of the event map yourself. You can get it on the app, you can get it on the website, you can get a physical copy at the park itself. Grab one, check it out, study it, learn it, be the map. For now, let's talk a little bit about the non-scary stuff you can look forward to during the event. Obviously, the biggest draw of Halloween Horror Nights is the haunts and scares, right? But what if you're not super into the scares? What if you were just dragged along for the night by your friends who want to torture you? Is there anything for the scaredy cats among us who are too afraid to face yet another chainsaw-wielding zombie? Of course there is, and that's what this section is all about. Firstly, the rides are open during the event, and sometimes the lines are even shorter than what you'd find during the day. Because most people go to Halloween Horror Nights for the houses, they don't tend to waste their time on the rides that they can ride any time of the year. So keep an eye on the wait times, they might be a little shorter. For the event, the following rides are open. Rip Ride Rocket, which is the big red coaster that you see even before you enter the park. Revenge of the Mummy, which is honestly one of the best indoor roller coasters of all time. Men in Black, which is a fun shooting game. And the building has the strongest air conditioning in the park. Seriously. If you're like just looking to cool down, Men in Black. Transformers is also open during the event. That's a 3D motion simulator ride. And finally, back in Diagon Alley, Escape from Gringotts roller coaster is also open for the event. As far as shows go, some years there are more than others. In 2022, there was a water-based lagoon show at the center of the park, and that was pretty cool. In the past years, they'd set up a stage inside scare zones for small acts to be performed. But the one consistent show for the last few seasons has been Nightmare Fuel. I mentioned Nightmare Fuel earlier as being located way in the back of the park in the old Fear Factor Stadium. The show times are typically around every hour, so you'll have plenty of chances to see it throughout the night. The theme, music, and choreography change with each season, but overall the show remains generally the same. You can expect an exhilarating show of dancing, pyrotechnics, acrobatics, and scantily clad performers. And more importantly, you can sit down for about 25 minutes and have a snack and a beverage and just enjoy the show. Speaking of food and beverage, at Halloween Horror Nights, you're never more than a few steps away from the next bar, if that's something you're into. I think Halloween Horror Nights is just as fun sober, but the alcohol is there if you need a little liquid courage. They have full service bars with just about any alcohol you could want. They have cans of beer and seltzers if you're more into that, and they have different specialty mixed drinks at every food cart, so you can try a new drink every time. On the topic of alcohol, you won't be able to enter or leave the park with alcoholic beverages, so just make sure that you finish your drink well before leaving, or security is going to make you chug. In terms of food options, you have the following quick service restaurants that you can take a seat in and relax for a while. Among the options are the Today Cafe, Krusty Burger, the Minions Cafe, Louis Italian, and the Leaky Cauldron back in Diagon Alley. This characters do not enter restaurants, shops, or bathrooms, so you can be sure to have a peaceful rest in any one of those places. I think the real food draw are the food carts that are only open during the event though. They're scattered throughout the park in typically these locations. There are different food items every single year, but they usually have some sort of like theme to them, like Halloween theme or house theme. I know one year they had like a pizza skull, or they had like packaged Rice Krispie treats that looked like meat. I'm sure this year they'll have something based around Stranger Things. But be sure to check the links below for your season's specialty food options. They're different every year, like I said, but you can always rest assured there will be pizza fries and there will be twisted taters. Those are event staples and must try at least once. If carnival games are something you like to play, they usually set up a few booths in front of the big stage near Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket. They're usually just fair games, basketball, balloon pop, ring toss, nothing special, but the prizes are Halloween themed, so try your luck, win a Frankenstein, his bride, the Wolfman, or even a Beetlejuice. And finally, the last non-spooky activity on our list is shopping. Of course, all of the stores are open during the event to purchase regular park merch, but the big draw is the tribute store. This is a more recent addition to the Universal shop lineup. 4 times a year, the creative team at Universal pulls together an appropriately themed tribute store for the season. They really go all out for Halloween. The store consists of 4 uniquely themed rooms that host merch for the event. The 3rd room is where you can find specialty sweet treats for the event as well. The best part about the tribute store is that while it is open during the event, it's also open during the day as well. So if you're worried that you might not be able to make time for it during the event, you can always check it out beforehand. So we've covered arrival, the price, the map, and the non-scary bits. Let's cover some of the event extras you might not be aware of as a first timer or as just a casual visitor. Let's start with the express passes. For an additional price on top of your admission, you can purchase the Universal Express Pass and skip those sometimes hour-plus wait times. They have a couple different versions of the pass, one that lets you go to each house and ride once per night, or one that lets you go unlimited times. You can even add them onto your frequent fair pass if you're a season holder. Unfortunately, I cannot give you a price because these prices are based night to night based on how busy the event is. The busier it is, the more expensive the pass is going to be. You can purchase the express passes in advance when purchasing the tickets online, or you can purchase them in the park at the ticket windows and at guest services in the park. Of course, if you're feeling extra bougie, you could book an RIP tour. You can either book a private tour or join a tour with others and get the VIP treatment. You'll get front-of-the-line access to each house, an exclusive lanyard and button, complimentary valet parking, and pre-tour reception at La Bamba's. For information about the price, check the links down below. Moving on, let's discuss early entry. If you're just coming to Halloween Horror Nights for the night, no day ticket, no annual pass, just a horror night out, you might want to consider the $40 Scream Early Pass. The pass will let you enter the park from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. so you can get into one of the Stay and Scream locations. This will help you get ahead of the crowds at the front of the park and maximize your fear. Are you one of those people who wants to learn everything that there is to know about an event? You want the behind the scenes nitty-gritty details? Of course you are, you're watching this video. That means the Behind the Screams tour might be for you. At $119 for 3 houses and $169 for 6 houses, you will join a group during the daytime for a lights on tour in select houses for the event. This is perfect for someone who might not be into the scary aspects of the event, but are still interested in seeing the details and the behind the screams lore of the houses. The tour guides will walk you through, give you backstory to each house, and even let you take pictures in some of the areas. I highly recommend it if you're able to check this tour out. I've only done it once, but it was incredible to see all the details that they put into the house that you'd never notice during the nighttime. Another fun add-on is character dining. For $159, you can have an all-you-can-eat dining experience with walk-around characters from the event, and you can even have your picture taken with them. I did this dining experience a couple years ago, and it was a pretty good time. The food was really good too. If you're staying at Cabana Bay this season, make sure you check out the special Chucky photo ops they'll have set up at the hotel. It's for hotel guests only, and you will have to show your key card to enter. They had Universal Monsters last year, and they did a really amazing job. I'm super excited to see the Chucky one this year. And finally, the Red Coconut Club, or the Dead Coconut Club. This is also a relatively new experience. Outside of the park in City Walk, there is a club called the Red Coconut. Just like the tribute store, each season Universal Creative has began theming this club to whatever the season is. In HHN's case, it's the Dead Coconut Club. From specialty drinks to merch to all of the spooky decor and music, there's a lot to check out. But the best part is there's no cover for this club. You don't even need an HHN ticket. You can just check it out. The next section is all about disability and accessibility access to the event. This section is possibly the most important one of all, so I'm going to try and make it as detailed and informative as possible. I apologize if I don't cover everything, but linked below is the park accessibility page, and you can always give guest services a call for specific health-related questions. First and foremost is the accessibility pass. For people with health conditions that make it difficult to wait in line, there is an accessibility pass. It is not an express pass, but it will help you wait the length of the line outside of the line and then enter the express lane when it's your return time. There's a website that I've linked below that Universal is now requiring people to sign up for. It is a third-party service that most theme parks are using these days. You'll have to fill out the form and get an approval from the site prior to arriving to the park. Once you have that in hand, you'll head to guest services at the front of the park and speak to one of the reps there to get the accessibility pass. Once you get the pass, you can head to your first house, get a return time, and come back and join the line. You might still have a little bit of a wait, but it will be considerably less than a normal queue. I mentioned in the map section of this video that the event is pretty spread out throughout the whole park, so it is a lot of walking. If that is a problem for you, ECV and wheelchairs are available to rent at the front of the park. The haunted houses for the event are wheelchair accessible, but certain ECVs might not work throughout the house. Discuss any issues you might have with the attendant at the entrance of the house. In some cases, they might have you transfer into a regular wheelchair to go through the house and queue. As for walking around the parks, anticipate at least 10,000 steps for the night. Take advantage of the many seated areas and benches around the park. Sometimes people watching is just as entertaining as being scared yourself. So don't be afraid to sit down and chill out if you need to. Be aware that there is loud music, sudden sounds, and flashing lights all throughout the event, not just in the houses. Use discretions when deciding if this event is right for you. YouTube has plenty of walkthrough videos of houses and scare zones that will give you a good idea of just how intense things can be. While the characters will never touch you, they are there to do a job, and that job is to scare you. Of course, this isn't a torture prison. If you become overwhelmed and unwilling to participate in the haunts any further, here are some tips. In the scare zones, walk on the sidewalks. Characters are trained not to really go after people walking on the sidewalks. If you're in a house and become overwhelmed, there are team members in almost every single room. Flag one of them down and explain that you need to leave. They will direct you to an emergency exit right away. You do not have to suffer in the house if you do not want to be there. Inside the houses, they tend to be very dark, sometimes a little narrow. If claustrophobia is a problem you struggle with, have a conversation with the house attendant before entering. If you need a quiet area to calm down for a bit, the stores are a safe place to hang out. Any of the indoor restaurants will let you sit down in the well-lit AC for as long as you want. The scare actors will not come in and bother you in there. Another safe place is Diagon Alley. It's pretty well insulated from the chaos, and there's lots to explore while you're trying to get your heart rate back to normal. In case of an emergency, there are first aid stations, and health service team members walk around the parks with red shirts and small first aid kits. They will be able to help you. They carry things like Tylenol and Band-Aids, so don't be afraid to flag them down if you need help. Hopefully this section helped answer some of the questions you might have. Everyone's situation is a little different, so please reach out to Universal on Twitter or by phone for any specific questions you might have for them. In this next section, I want to talk about the vibes of the event. What can you expect to see and experience? We'll start by saying that the event is recommended for people 13 and over. You can and sometimes will see younger kids at the event, And while I personally question the parenting choices, that is fully up to you and your family's discretion. If you think your 6-year-old can handle seeing the carnage, they're not going to tell you no. That said, you can expect to see blood, guts, screaming, yelling, scantily clad people, and adult themes. There are sometimes little shows within the scare zones of people being sacrificed or slaughtered. It is a scary event made mainly for adults, so just be aware of that. Because it's mostly an adult event, be aware that people will be drinking, and sometimes drunk people get a little loud and rowdy. That is not an excuse to get all machismo. Got it, guys? Don't get it in anyone's face, guest, team member, or character. The performers will not touch you. Pay them the same respect. If you're someone who doesn't get scared easily, that's fine, but don't ruin it for other people. Everyone is there to have a good time, so be respectful and have fun. Costumes and non-COVID masks are not allowed for obvious safety reasons. However, Halloween-themed attire is always welcome. I have this bloody dress that I love to wear opening weekend. I can wear this sweatshirt. It always gets compliments. I have this Beetlejuice-inspired outfit that I like to wear. And sometimes people will like Disney bound as their favorite Halloween characters as well. If you're not sure what Disney bounding is, it's basically dressing up in regular clothes but that are inspired by character. For example, if you wanted to wear a red and green striped sweater and a brown fedora, no one's gonna stop you. You'd make a pretty convincing Freddy Krueger. As long as you're not painting your face or bringing knife hands, that kind of thing is fine. Finally, we've arrived to the very last section of the video, the tips and tricks. Some of these will just be reminders from earlier sections, and some will be good to know tips. Some will be hacks to save money and to have more efficient time throughout the night. Mileage may vary on these tips though, depending on the year and the night and the crowd size, so keep that in mind as well. Feel free to leave any tips and tricks of your own in the comments below, and we can all help each other out to have the best time possible. So I mentioned early park access and the stay and scream locations in a previous section, but as a reminder, if you plan on spending any time during the day as an annual pass holder or just a day guest, figure out which stay and scream location works best for you. Once you're in the area, you cannot leave until the event is open. Decide which house you want to do first, find out which stay and scream location is closest, ask a team member if you need to. On-site hotel guests, that's guests of Portofino, Aventura, Royal Pacific, Cabana Bay, Hard Rock, any of those on-site Universal hotels, you may be able to use your room key to enter the event early, free of charge. See a team member for details. Last year I stayed at Cabana Bay and there was a hotel guest entrance right where the entrance of the Blue Man Group is, so that might be available this year or your year. For those guests that have no early access, don't worry, I have some tips for you too. First is to obviously get to the park as early as possible. Plop yourself in line at the gates and wait until 6:30. Not only will you get in first, you'll have a great view of the opening ceremony that only occur at the front of the park. On occasion, depending on crowd levels, Universal will sometimes open up their exit gates as entrances. So if the crowd at the main entrances are growing, check out the exit gates, see if they're letting people in that way. The wait might be shorter. As I mentioned before, once you're inside the park, you have two options, straight ahead or to the right. Universal historically puts their biggest IP houses in the sound stages at the front of the park. Not always, but most of the time. This year, The Last of Us, Stranger Things can both be found right there at the front of the park, which means if you're prioritizing those big name houses, which most people are, you're gonna head straight there. Now, if you're not somebody who necessarily cares about that, or you realize that those houses are always going to have a long wait and you just want to knock out as much bang for your buck as possible, you might want to head to the right. Starting at the back of the park typically means shorter wait times. Because of the stay and scream locations, you might still find that there's a bit of a wait for some of the houses back there, but I promise they will be much lower than the front of the park houses. Along the same line, if you're not picky about your houses, the original content houses tend to have shorter lines on average anyway. You can probably get through 2 or 3 OC houses at the beginning of the night, then grab a snack and wait the hour for the big ticket house. Lines are always going to be shorter at the beginning and the end of the night. If you can manage to stick it out till 2 in the morning, lines tend to start dropping the later it goes. Also, so long as you're in line for a house or a ride, this applies for rides too, before 2 a.m., they will let you go through the house, even if it's a long wait. So if you're in line at 1:59 a.m. and the wait time is 30 minutes, you can still go through the house. Wednesdays and Sundays are going to be your lowest crowd nights. Surprisingly, Halloween night is also historically a pretty quiet night. You would think that Halloween is like the most popular night, but everybody's out doing trick-or-treating or having their own parties, or they have their own plans. So a lot of the times Halloween Horror Nights is pretty dead on Halloween night, pun intended. So if you don't have plans for Halloween, you might consider checking out Halloween Horror Nights. The next tip is for beverages. If you are an alcohol drinker, then there will be plenty of bars all throughout the night. If you plan on purchasing specialty drinks, get one of those blinky light souvenir cups. If you purchase one of those, you'll be able to get cheaper refills of the specialty drinks and certain beers. This is the prices from last year, just so you can get an idea of what I mean. It's not too much cheaper, but a couple of dollars on each drink does add up. Plus, you get a cute souvenir to bring home at the end of the night. If you're not into alcohol, that's cool too. They have HHN themed soda cups for purchase, and you can refill at all the Coke Freestyle machines throughout the night for free. Also, my favorite drink tip. You can get free ice and water at the Coke Freestyle machines. If you're someone like me who has to have water on them at all times, you can bring a reusable water bottle, or if you just buy a water bottle or a cup throughout the night, you can bring it to the Coke Freestyle machines and fill it up with ice and water. The water from the machines are always cold, even if there's no ice in them. Oh, I love it. It's the best hack. Make sure you have the Universal Orlando Park app downloaded on your phone before you go. There's a special section for Halloween Horror Nights that will give you wait times for the houses, show times, and specialty maps for food and drink options throughout the park. If apps and trivia are your thing, under the HHN section, you can also find event activities such as trivia and backstories for each house and mobile games. It's just a way to make those long lines go a little faster. There's also a place on the app where you can chat with Universal Guest Services if you have an issue before, during, or after your visit. Feel free to ask them any questions, and I'm sure they'll be happy to help. If your phone battery starts to drain throughout your visit and you forgot to bring your battery charging pack, Universal sells fuel rods. I'm not really sure what the price is for these, but they are good options in case you need them. If you are very casual about Halloween Horror Nights and don't mind waiting until later, parking is free after 12 a.m. With the park staying open till 2 a.m. every night, you'll still have plenty of time to get in at least a few houses, and you'll save close to $30 on parking. On the topic of apparel, please, I'm begging you, wear comfortable shoes. I mentioned in the accessibility section that I've never walked less than 10,000 steps on any HHN night. Even if you're planning on just doing a couple of houses, the walk from your car to the parks alone is enough to make your feet ache. Wear comfortable shoes you can walk in for long periods of time and maybe even run in. You never know when a zombie is going to chase you. You want to be able to take off in a hurry. September and October is when hurricane season really starts to ramp up in Florida. Keep that in mind and pack for the possibility of rain. Umbrellas, ponchos, rain jackets, whatever it is, just keep in mind that there is a good chance that it might rain the night of your event. So it's always just nice to have, just in case. Along the same topic, Florida rain doesn't typically last very long. Some nights we have big storms, but in general, the storm will last an hour or two and then stop. The houses will remain open in the rain. The scare zones in the streets will not. If you want to take a break from being scared, make sure you walk on the sidewalks through the scare zones. The scare actors tend to go for people in the streets rather than going out of their way to bother people on the sidewalks. It's kind of an unspoken rule, but you'll be much safer from scares if you just stick to the sidewalks. In case of an emergency, they have security, health services, and management walking around all the time. Find one of them and they will assist you in any way they can. And that's it. That is the ultimate beginner's guide to Halloween Horror Nights. Orlando. I tried to cover absolutely everything I could think of, but I'm sure I forgot something. If you have any general questions, go ahead and put them below. I will do my best to answer them, or maybe someone else in the comments who knows more than me can also reply and help you out. Anything more specific, you can find links below to Ask Universal. They have an email, a phone number, a website, and I think they even respond pretty quickly on Twitter too. As a reminder, I am not affiliated with Universal in any way. I'm just a lover of the parks and a very anxious traveler. If this was helpful for you, please give it a thumbs up and share the video with any other anxious travelers that you might know. Subscribe if you like what I'm doing here and would like to see more. Links to my TikTok, Instagram, and a Ko-fi store where I sell cool cross stitches like these can all be found below. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the fog. Bye.